So, you know, these titles really go on forever. In addition to that, he's written so many books. I mean, there are at least a dozen monographs and more than a dozen edited books. You know, so if I read you the titles of the books, then that would take yet another hour to go on. But I still want to do a few. Oh, and the other thing is his specializations. I mean, Ron is a specialist and a well-known figure in a number of different fields. So the field of Russian, Soviet history, the field of the Russian Revolution, the history of the Caucasus, and when you say Caucasus, this means the entire region. He's written on the Baku Commune, he's got a book on the history of Armenia, he's got a book on the history of Georgia, which he tells me is just translated. He's an expert in the field of the history of empires, and he has books on empires. So we're going to hear some of that today, having to do with the Ottoman Empire and the reverberations of the Ottoman. He's an expert on the history of nationalism, and he's written on the history of nationalism. Gave a series of lectures here at Stanford for Crease in the Dallin Lectures, called The Revenge of the Past, which is a book that was published, and I'm proud to say I wrote a preface for it. And he's also an expert on the history of genocide, which is a field in and of itself. And he's written a marvelous prize-winning book. And by the way, it's the Vucinic Prize, which is, you know, linked to Wayne Vucinic, who was here and a major figure in Russian East European studies for many years. A book on the history of the Armenian genocide. So, you know, he's impossible to introduce, and therefore I just introduced him, and that's it. And we're looking forward to your lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. I hadn't expected such a nice audience and so many young people too. That's great. So I'm going to try to do three things today in about 40 minutes, so we have some time for talking and questioning and so forth. I'm going to try to argue three things. I'm going to talk first about the emergence of a dialogue between Armenian, Turkish, Kurdish, and other scholars on the events of 1915, on the Armenian genocide. I'm secondly going to briefly review the developments in Turkey since the coming to power of the moderately Islamic party, AKP, Party of Justice and Development and Justice, that is Erdogan's party, which was first engaged in a determined effort to end the control of Turkey by the Kemalist, Derin Devlet, the deep state. That's where the term usually came from, Derin Devlet, that now is being used by the Trumpists and so forth, and to democratize the republic before Erdogan turned more authoritarian. And then after that roughly tragic turn around 1211, I'm going to talk also about and try to illustrate the complex imbrication, I love that word, it means, you know, kind of connecting things, of the Armenian question with the current Turkish politics, most importantly with the Kurdish question. Now, why Armenians and Kurds? Because I think there's something important there about that connection that I'm going to try to explain. Ultimately, it'll come out to something which I'm calling, which has been called ontological insecurity. That is, Turkish fears of what Armenians represent and what the Kurds represent. I might also be interested in Kurds and Armenians because I now have a Kurdish, Armenian, American granddaughter of 8 months, and I'm wondering what her future will be. True understanding, it seems to me, of what happened in 1915, about which Norman has written beautifully, that is how the modern Turkish state was created, and how both historic Armenia and Kurdistan were effaced, suffers, it seems to me, from a disputed history, which itself has been battered by professional falsifiers and government interference. And yet, I would say, despite what the Turkish government and other falsifiers have done, some teaching in American universities, in the last few decades, roughly from the late 1990s, there have been incredible developments in our understanding of the genocide. And part of that, we can take credit at the University of Michigan, the University of Chicago, where we formed something called the Workshop on Armenian Turkish Scholarship, WATS, roughly around 1990, and began with a conference at Chicago and then Michigan, and then now we're about to have the 11th conference in Ann Arbor in the fall of next year. We are planning these events around this organization which we call